September 10th is World Suicide Prevention Day, and September is Suicide Prevention Month. This is an opportunity for us to share our stories and delineate our various experiences in an effort to help ourselves cope, but also help others who may be struggling to fight for our loved ones, those we care about, our friends, our family. Suicide is such a taboo topic, and I can understand why so many stray away from discussing it so openly. But in this video, I want to talk about why it's so important. I'm going to share some statistics on suicide to start us off. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience with suicidal ideation over the years. And I'm going to talk about where I'm at today and end by sharing some perspectives that have helped me cope along my journey and perspectives that I continue to adhere to this day. So today's September 10th, World Suicide Prevention Day. Why is that important? Well, I have some statistics here. According to the World Health Organization, 726,000 people commit suicide every single year. And I did the math on that, and it comes out to almost 2,000 people per day. Now, I'm a member of Generation Z, and I was interested in seeing what stats apply to my generation specifically as well. And it turns out suicide is actually the third leading cause of death among people aged 15 to 29 years old. But it's not unique to any given generation. Applied to the general population, 1 in 5 people, that's 20% of people, have thought about suicide at some point in their lives. So, a couple things I want to start off with here is the topic of openness, because that's, in my opinion, what this day is about. It's about openness, whether it be loved ones experiencing suicide, friends experiencing suicidal thoughts, whether it be ourselves. And I want to emphasize the importance of openness on mitigating the severe symptoms that come with depression, that come with racing thoughts, the type of things that can lead to people experiencing suicidal behavior or thoughts. So openness, in my view, is a profoundly helpful coping mechanism. It's an opportunity to show people that we care. It's an opportunity to help express ourselves and what we're feeling at any given moment and try and accumulate advice from others that we can then apply to our own lives. And on the topic of openness, there's also a negative that arises often that I see in society. And I've seen this in personal experiences, so it's both from an external view but also an internal view. I've seen it everywhere. So anecdotally, I've noticed that there's people who will dismiss people experiencing suicidal thoughts as attention-seeking. And this is an extremely toxic and unhelpful viewpoint. I mean, seriously, when thinking about your fellow humans who are struggling, why would you take the viewpoint that they're just attention-seeking? The statistics clearly show that's not the case. When 726,000 people commit suicide a year, it's clearly not just a matter of attention-seeking. People really do it. People who are suicidal, it's not that they want to die, in my view, it's that they're tired of living for some reason. In many cases, those reasons are easy to understand if you just put yourself in their shoes and see things from someone else's perspective instead of your own all the time. So I've had a very long history with suicidal ideation personally. I grew up raised by a single mom, so I was in a single parent household, didn't have much income. I've had experience with poverty. I've had the experience of wondering why my father left me and wondering if there was something wrong with me. And that led to some antisocial behaviors from a very young age. I remember I used to always possess an angry face at all times in my early schooling years. I just didn't want to go to school, and a prominent part of that was attributed to severe bullying in middle school. I was bullied because of the fact that I was always sad and depressed, which only further intensified my depression. And going on into high school, not a whole lot changed. Junior high, high school, the bullying gets so bad, I actually switched schools multiple times. I went from living with my mom to living with my cousin, to living back with my mom, to living back with a different cousin, and back and forth and back and forth. And it didn't end there. I ended up having a very successful sophomore year of high school. I got elected class president, I got straight A pluses, I had a perfect attendance, and in large part that was because of the aid and assistance of a medication called Zoloft, and I talk about my experience with Zoloft in one of my videos, if you're interested in seeing that. But everything came crashing down when I found an intelligence test. Now this intelligence test, IQ test, was administered to myself during a period of time when I was missing school, when I was depressed, when I was being bullied. So today I have the knowledge and awareness to understand that it's not really an accurate measure because I didn't even take the test seriously. But at this moment in time, I've had people consistently say that I'm such an intelligent person, I'm such a smart person, I'm so well spoken, and my teachers would compliment how good of a reader I am and how analytical my writing is. And seeing this intelligence test and say that I was a person in the superior low range of intelligence greatly diminished my self-esteem, and it led to suicidal ideation in the summer following my extremely successful sophomore year of high school. And that ended up with me having a dropout period of 2 years where I battled with these thoughts of worthlessness, of hopelessness, feeling like there was no value that I could contribute to the world. And I would just stay in my room at all times of the day. I had zero social interaction outside of with family and occasionally a doctor's appointment I would go to. But I wasn't getting treatment. I wasn't on medication. And eventually, I would go back on medication and finish high school successfully. My junior and senior years of high school went extremely well, with the exception of the attendance department, which I talk about in a couple of my other videos. There's some of the earlier videos on my channel where I talk about my junior year and senior years of high school if you're interested in those. Fast forward, I'm in college now. Well, I was in college, but at this part of the timeline, I'm in college. And my junior year, I experienced a severe manic episode that lasted 6 months in total. And it got progressively worse over the course of the episode. And at the midpoint, approximately, I started experiencing suicidal ideation over the fact that people weren't believing in my grandiose ideas, over the fact that people were rejecting the nonsensical delusions that I was expressing on a regular basis. And I was living in a fraternity house at the time. That certainly didn't help. And I don't assign any blame to them. Truthfully, they were actually extremely helpful to me and went out of their way to try and help me become better, to the best within their ability. But we were all 20-year-old somethings, and so I don't assign any blame to the fact that people started to distance themselves from me eventually. But originally, a lot of them came, visited me in the hospital. I had many friends visit me while I was hospitalized for a mix of both suicidal ideation and also severe mania. When I came out of mania, things got, I would say, one of the worst points of my life. I experienced suicidal thoughts constantly because I was so embarrassed, ashamed about the things I had said and done during mania. I felt so guilty about the things I had said about other people, and I experienced many post-mania stressors, and the way I coped was by overeating and staying inside, socially isolating, the typical methods I had utilized in previous years of my life whenever suicidal. And I experienced an overwhelming amount of racing thoughts about the manic episode. Thinking about things I said to this fraternity brother, thinking about things that I did at a party, or thinking about things I said about family and to family. And so I've had a long battle with suicidal ideation. I understand what it's like to feel suicidal, to think that suicide is the only way out, that there's not a path forward. And I'm grateful that I'm at a point now where I recognize that it's not true and that there is a path forward. And over time, I've developed perspectives that have helped me cope. And one of the things I've come to understand is this: putting yourself first isn't being selfish. In this chaotic world, in this dog-eat-dog world, it's so important for self-care. Many people neglect self-care, and I think that's one of the major reasons why 1 in 5 people experience suicidal thoughts, is we're not a society that's taught about self-care. We're also not taught really about caring about others and the importance of benevolence, putting ourselves in other people's shoes. It's not a lesson that all of us learn as we're growing up, and it's more difficult to instill those values and those beliefs into a full-fledged adult who's already had their preset conditional beliefs from childhood and their teenage years strongly augmented into themselves. So putting yourself first isn't being selfish. Self-care is important. You can't allow other people to knock yourself down. And I know it's easier said than done, but in my experience, and this is my second perspective, is that you shouldn't waste time and energy caring about toxic people. They're insecure in their own ways. If they're going to be negative, and if whatever experiences derived have contributed to them being negative, it's not your responsibility to change them. Your responsibility is to yourself, most importantly, because you can control yourself. You can control how you feel, how you think, how you react to the problems that arise in your life. You can devise ways to overcome obstacles to your life, but it's not your job to change the world. It's not your job to fix every single person that you encounter. We should all strive to make a difference in this world, to make a positive difference. But that doesn't mean that it's our responsibility to change everything, or that we're culpable when we fail to change someone or something. And the last perspective that has helped me cope over the years is a recognition. A recognition that change is ad infinitum. The world is constantly changing. And even when you are at absolute rock bottom, there is a possibility that things are going to change. Not just a possibility, but a guarantee that things are going to change. Now, the change could be for the worse, but the change could also be for the better. And that's what's key. Things can get better. No matter where you are or where you're stuck, how you're feeling. It could be for a bipolar manic episode like myself. It could be something else different in your life. It could be a job that you lost, or getting kicked out of school like what happened to me. There's so many things that can make someone feel like their life is over. But change is infinite. The world is ever changing. In this increasingly interdependent, interconnected world, there's change happening around us at all times, and it can be overwhelming and it can be stressful. But from that, we should understand that there's always going to be a path forward in some way. It may not be the same path we were on before. We may have to take a new path at some point, but there's always a path forward. So those of you out there struggling, stick in there, hang in there, keep fighting the good fight. Please understand that you're not alone, and you have worth to this world. Most importantly, you're worth it to yourself. Do things for yourself. Put yourself first. Don't waste time and energy on the toxic people. And never forget that there's always hope. Change is constant. There's going to be ups and downs. And during the downs, we're not always exhibiting rational thinking. And it's okay to not feel okay. Just kind of accept it as this sad reality of life. Is that things aren't always going to be perfect. For some of us, they may never be perfect. And that's okay. Life is tough, but it's still good. And it's still worth living because we're worth it to ourselves. I truly believe, and I contend and will argue this with anyone, that the universe put all of us here for some reason. For some reason. And there's more to life than we are led to believe. So much knowledge out there. We live in interesting times, that's a certainty. But no matter what time era we live in, there's always an opportunity for us to grow and learn and become better, physically, mentally, spiritually. So never lose hope. Never surrender hope. And I'll end with a quote that has helped me. It's by President Calvin Coolidge. He was President of the United States. said, "Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent." Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. I know this is a taboo topic, but I wanted to share some information from my story in the hopes that it will help someone out there with themselves or help someone they know. That's my objective in making this video. So thank you for watching. I appreciate every one of you. Love and light to all. Try to keep a routine of tranquility. Don't be too hard on yourself, everybody. It's a tough world, and we got to do the best we can. Stay strong, people.